Kenya's biggest conversation. This is the third hour. We broadcast this show every weekday morning, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. on SpiceFM and online, SpiceFM KE, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. We're also live streaming on our website, www.spicefm.co.ke. CT, today's proverb.
A rooster is not expected to crow for the whole world.
A rooster is not expected to crow for the whole world.
Not really.
Okay. When does a rooster become a cockerel?
When does a cockerel become a rooster?
I'm wondering.
One is Toto Kuku.
The other one is?
Kuku Kubwa.
Kuku kubwa. It's like Jogo and Jimby. What's the difference?
Jogo is now head Jimby.
Jogo is Jimby kubwa.
Yes. That's why I use the word strong.
Maduong.
Power.
Okay. Power to our Kenya rugby women's team. The match is just kicking off in Japan. We're playing New Zealand.
A power. We ourselves are a power. You know, the fact that we can send so many teams to the Olympics, because it's not as though it's a toss-up in the air and who would like to go. You actually have to qualify. That, for me, is a huge achievement.
That's already a big win.
No, it's a big win because with every progression, with every year, you see more and more sports gaining preeminence in the country. And you see the representation at regional levels. Now it's at the Olympics. An excellent thing. Kudos to the team.
In fact, if the girls can beat New Zealand now, this morning, it's okay.
You take a holiday.
We can come home.
Okay.
Even our athletes can just say, it's okay, you tomorrow,
of the
Patia is a goal. Chukweni. Our girls have beaten the Kiwi girls. Let's have a conversation about business registration. You are a director in a business. Are you a shareholder in that business? Have you gone to the business registration services and included there that you're a beneficial owner, or are you not?
I have absolutely no idea what you're talking about.
You know, people have for a long time been there. You know, you register yourself as these are the directors of this company. Okay? And we went like the way we went, and we didn't get that tender. You know, the way we were trying to secure that
the way
very
two of
nice
you were trying to stand outside
multi-billion shilling tender at
They had already
KEMSA.
written the zeros.
And but the beneficial owner, the directors are different. We are the owners of the owner of the company. So the government has now been fine-tuning that. They want you to state this company that is registered. These are the directors. These are the shareholders. Who are the beneficial owners? And people have been asking, so what are all these stories, Bana? See, I registered a company. What do you expect? But let's have that conversation with people now who can tell us why are they hullabaloo about this whole thing. Shighadi Mokio is an advocate of the High Court of Kenya, and she's also the Deputy Registrar for Movable Property Security Rights at the Business Registration Service. And we also have Malachi Adedeh. He's a founding partner and CEO of Liroja Services. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Good morning.
It's good to have you on the show. Welcome to the Situation Room. Unfortunately, you're not here with us, but you're here with us. Now, let me just start with you, Shighadi. You work at the Business Registration Service. Which one is this?
Okay. So it's formerly known as the Registrar the Registrar General's Office.
Yeah.
In 2015, BRS came into force through an act of parliament. And under BRS, we have the company's registry. We have the official receiver. We have the Movable Property Security Rights Registry, formerly known as the Charters Registry. And then we have the Hire Purchase Registry. So marriages and societies still reside under the Registrar General's Office, which is under the Office of the Attorney General.
So you deal with businesses?
Yes.
And what is movable property security rights? That is a long one.
It is. So it's an enabling register that allows the secured creditor, once they have given a loan, to register their interest against third parties. So once you register your interest, anyone who follows after will conduct a search and know that this asset has already been encumbered.
Oh, taking a mortgage.
Yes.
It's
Not
registered.
a mortgage, it's only on movable assets.
Movable. Oh, land is
Yes,
not.
your
house
phone,
is not movable.
laptop,
Car.
intellectual property.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
I see. I see. Malachi, good morning. Tell us about Liroja Services before we delve into this conversation about transparency in company ownership.
Good morning. Liroja Services is a company secretarial firm providing company secretarial and governance advisory. So basically, we advise boards of directors on how to comply with the requirements of the law and how to run their companies effectively and efficiently, playing oversight over management.
Okay. So basically you deal with the companies, and do you deal with SMEs? Because I wouldn't imagine that many of the people who require information are SMEs, such as CT and myself, who have a company, and we don't even know what it, apart from looking for tenders.
Which we never get.
When you talk about SMEs, what do you have in mind? Because
Like this one of ours. We have registered a company, we're looking for tenders.
So when you look at it's pretty much a startup, a company
Yes.
that has been formed for purposes of making headway into becoming an entrepreneur. So there is value in advising those companies in setting up properly. There's value in getting to know what corporate governance entails for that, maybe a company with two directors. How do you separate your role as owners of the business? How do you separate your role as board of directors? And at the same time, the same people are also management. So pretty much one person wearing three hats, that of ownership at shareholder level, being a director, playing oversight over the business and reportable entity to the shareholders. And at the same time, you are also the one who runs the day-to-day activities of the business. So there is need for the support we can provide here is education and creating awareness on what one needs to do at each level. When you are wearing the hat of shareholders, what kind of decisions can you make? When you are wearing the hat of a director, what can you do? And when you are management, what are your duties to the company and to the director? So the issues, including having independent directors and all that, can become very useful.
So what can you do and what would your responsibilities be? I think we have quite a number of people who are registering these companies. And so the question would be, so if you are a shareholder, then what are your responsibilities or what is your role? If you're a director, what is it that you're supposed to be doing? If you're a manager in this company, then what are your roles? Because it would seem as though from what you're saying that people are getting these lines crisscrossed and that might eventually get them into trouble or into a sticky situation in the future. So what are the roles? Can you define those? So that people can get an understanding of what is supposed to be done where.
So when you look at the shareholder role, the shareholder is the owner of capital. For a limited liability company, once you contributed your capital and you subscribe for shares in a company, pretty much you are only required to follow up with the directors of the company for a return on your investment and also to hold them accountable to take care of social issues, environmental issues, to make sure that the company is a good corporate citizen, so to speak. But in terms of responsibilities within the company, they do not run day-to-day, they don't make day-to-day decisions within the company. Now, once the shareholders have contributed the capital, they entrust this capital to the directors. So the directors are the ones that have fiduciary duty to the shareholders to make sure that the company does what it set out to do, which must be a legal business. Now, the role of the directors is to oversee set this vision, mission, strategy of the company to make sure that the company is a going concern. Now, the directors do not involve themselves in the day-to-day running of the business. So they delegate the running of the business to management. Now, for SMEs, it's a bit tricky because you find that the 2 people or 3 or 4 individuals who are the shareholders, who are contributing capital, are also the directors. And they're also the ones, one of them is CEO, another one is CFO, another one is operations director, and all those fancy names that we give ourselves when we start companies. So the important thing to note for anyone who is involved in a company at whatever level is that there are responsibilities set out in the Companies Act. So, and as we all know, ignorance is no defense. The moment you set up a company, you need to know. So you need to go to forums where this kind of information are being shared. You need to engage a company secretary to guide you on procedural issues when making decisions within your company. So the moment you set up the company, the roles or duties and responsibilities at whatever level you are involved in, then set it.
Let me bring you back, Shighadi, the issue of registration. And there's something that the government and your basically the business registration service had rolled out earlier in the year, and I think you had extended it. It was on the issue of beneficial owner, which was a requirement for all businesses to go back into the system and declare beneficial owner. Take us through that. Who is the beneficial owner, and why are you seeking this information, Shighadi?
Okay, thank you. So what I'll begin with is probably the why, and then I'll dive into who the beneficial owner is. So we all are aware that the government is committed towards the growth and transformation of Kenya. And this can only be achieved through transparency, accountability, and public participation. And so beneficial ownership transparency has become one of the leading, I would say, tool to tackle illicit financial flows relating to tax evasion, money laundering, corruption, and terrorism financing. So during the London Anti-Corruption Summit in 2016, through the Attorney General, Kenya made commitments to take measures in line with the company's law to establish a public central register of companies' beneficial ownership information. And so in 2017, we amended the Act to ensure that we have incorporated the fact that a company need not only give us information about their members, but they need to ensure that they have also given us who the beneficial owner is. And so back to who the beneficial owner is. A beneficial owner is a natural person, not a company. A natural person who ultimately owns or who controls now that legal person, be it a company or an arrangement, be it a limited liability partnership, be it a trust. So what we want to know is the natural person on whose behalf a transaction is either conducted. So, and it includes the person who exercises ultimate effective control over a legal person or arrangement. So what we've done is we have ensured that, because the definition is quite broad, we've tried to give the scope within which this is basically for the public listed companies, because so we've tried to ensure that we have defined who a beneficial owner is, to include, given the parameters, to include it is an individual who directly or indirectly holds 10% of the shares in the company, the issued shares in the company, exercises 10% voting rights in the company, has a right to appoint or remove a director of a company, and someone who exercises significant control or influence of our company. And we went further to define what significant control and influence is, to mean someone who is able to participate in the financial and financial policies of a company without necessarily having full control over them. Like you have said, it's shareholder is there. We actually know this is the shareholder, but clearly we see that the money probably is being diverted to someone else. So who is that person? That is what we want to know.
City has like 17 questions. Start with question number 1A.
Okay, question number 1A. The explanation is clear and not difficult to understand. But the vast majority of people who want to get into business are probably at the level where they are the only owners of the business, or they have one partner, somebody with whom they work. And chances are the business that they own isn't a limited liability enterprise. Now, how does the department that you head, how does it help the simple mwananchi? How does it help them to understand how they can organize themselves within this legal structure that you've mentioned, so that, one, they can be compliant with the laws of the country, and also how that can be beneficial to them when they then seek assistance either through funding from a bank or from an institution that offers such help?
So,
if I got you right, the question is asking whether unincorporated businesses, other than limited liability companies, are affected by these regulations. Is that correct? And how then they translate this for their benefit in the market?
That is part of the question, yes. And I think if we can just start from there, like that, does this impact all companies that have been registered, all businesses, or does it only impact those that are listed?
Maybe to go with this one, the requirement to comply with beneficial owner regulations apply to private companies limited by share, public limited liability companies, the PLCs of this world, both listed and unlisted. It applies to companies limited by guarantees. So only those who have registered their companies under the Companies Act currently are affected by this arrangement. Now, where one has a business which is not registered under the Companies Act, but then that business is in turn a shareholder in a company which is registered under the Companies Act, then the regulations apply to them to the extent that they are shareholders. For the local mwananchi who have started a business, which they are, from your description, pretty much a partnership, the regulations as articulated now do not apply to those partnerships or unregistered entities. For purposes that are useful for those who are venturing into business, there are advantages and disadvantages of incorporating a limited liability company, and there are advantages for running a partnership depending on the scope and magnitude of the kind of business one is doing. So for that mwananchi who has not registered a limited liability company, they need to be at ease. The DO regulations do not apply to them up here. Shighadi, do you have something to add?
You have articulated it well.
Okay, so in essence, what you're saying is, if somebody has, say, a sole proprietorship, then everything that we've been saying doesn't actually apply to them.
Doesn't.
Okay.
No.
Now, if somebody wants to understand, someone isn't listening to this show, but they are IT savvy, as far as common mwananchi can be IT savvy, and they want to understand these things and get in touch with either your offices, how does one get to reach you? How does one access this information?
The information is provided under the Business Registration Service website, the brs.go.ke. We have a user manual that it even has pictures that will guide the individual on how to go about lodging the beneficial ownership information.
and to
In terms of
that,
reaching us, we have customer care service at BRS, so we always are happy to assist.
Okay. Even as you do this and giving that final information in terms of what you're asking people to do as they're registering these companies, do you find that there's an uptake in information? I mean, I know that there's an uptake in the registration of business. If we were to go to the registrar, for example, you would be able to find that on a daily basis, even through the portal and such, people are registering businesses like wildfire. However, is there an uptake in this information that is helping people to do it the right way? And if there is not, apart from what we are doing now, is there adequate communication flow to let people know that they ought to be doing it in the right way?
Yes, indeed. I believe the system is quite simple. Once you log in, as long as you follow the right, because we've tried as much as possible to describe what you're supposed to do. So I believe Malachi, being our user, can speak more into how the system works and how easy it is to register a business or a company.
So I think the takeaway on this for the public user out there is that this system is automated on the eCitizen platform, on the business registration service portal. So when one logs in to register a company, as you put in the details of your directors and shareholders and company secretaries, you also declare who is the beneficial owner in that process. Now, the system is designed in such a way that an average user who knows what they're doing, I should add that, should be able to go through the process, register company, and disclose the required information to the registrar of companies. Now, in a bid to improve on the ease of doing business, this process is done. The process of registering a company is done in such a way that you really do not need to be guided by an advocate or a company secretary for you to do that. So for purposes of our market, once one has decided that you want a company, you can dial into your eCitizen account, your own personal eCitizen account, provide the details of those people who are going to be the shareholders and directors of your company. And it is really a simple and straightforward process for someone who is tech savvy, someone who can read and understand that this is the information they require in this segment, this is the information they want me to attach in this segment. It's pretty much a straightforward process.
And how long does it take for you to get the company registered?
Shighadi can give you the correct estimated time.
An average of 2 days, as long as we don't have the back and forth, it's 2 days.
Okay. And then finally, once someone has registered a company, okay, yes, let's hear from you, Malachi. What would the back and forth be?
The back and forth usually is a measure of whether someone knows what they are doing or not. For example, if you are asked to provide a residential address and you didn't provide the correct address, then they will send you a correction for you to enhance that information. But if you provide it in all one go and you provided complete information, it takes 2 to 3 days. You have your company.
And then, probably just to add, the BO information will basically affect those the companies that were registered before 13th of October 2020. Like Malachi has indicated, once you are registering a company, if you're registering the company now, we require you to give us the beneficial ownership information. So the companies that were registered prior to the registry being operationalized, then they require to submit the system.
Okay. Once someone has registered their company, what obligations do they have going forward with the registrar?
So when you have a company and there are prescribed information, so all information you provide to the registrar for registration are prescribed information. So the shareholder and their particulars, those are prescribed information. Directors and their particulars, and company secretary and their particulars. If shareholders change, or directors change, or company secretary change, or beneficial owner information change within a period ranging from 14 days to 60 days, you need to notify the registrar that those changes have happened. If you change shareholders, there is a chance that the ultimate beneficial owner also changes. Because if I was holding shares on my own behalf, then I transfer those shares to you, for example, but you are holding them on behalf of your children under a trust deed. That needs to be disclosed. So there is a ultimate beneficial ownership of those shares does not lie with you. You are holding those shares for the benefit of someone else who is probably a minor, or you don't want them to hold those shares now. But you set up a trust deed under which those shares will ultimately go to them in 10 or 15 or so many years down the road. So the obligation of the person who registers a company is to make sure that all details within that company that changes over time is communicated to the registrar of companies, and also to ensure that the company at all times does legal business. So you don't defraud your creditors, you don't use it for tenders to get money that work is not done for example. You don't use it to receive money that are used to finance terrorism, pretty much for money laundering. So those are illegal. So as the founders, promoters of the company, you have to, it is your duty, you have to ensure that the company remains and continues to do legal business.
Thank you very much. Malachi Adedeh, founding partner and CEO of Liroja Services, and also Shighadi Mokio, Deputy Registrar, Movable Property Securities Rights Division of the Business Registration Services. Asante sana for joining us this morning and for sharing the information that you have with us. Have a lovely day.
Thank you.
And time for us to take a break at 28 minutes to 9 o'clock. Kenya's biggest conversation continues after we take a look at the weather and how the traffic situation is looking like. If you'd like to get information or highlights of what we discuss on this show on a daily basis, you can do so by just checking out our social media platforms, SpiceFM KE on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Twitter. And also you can check out our website, www.spicefm.co.ke, in addition to our Instagram, where we also share the clips, SpiceFM KE on Instagram. And you can also get these via SMS. Just text the words TSR to 22, what's that number? 22840. TSR to 22840. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.